Good day, everyone. Okay, today I will guide you on how to design an appropriate questionnaire for marketing final year project FYP. Okay, before we begin, it's better for me to define again what actually is a questionnaire for marketing FYP. So in marketing, commonly or generally, a marketer will use a questionnaire as a tool to assist the research data collection. So a research instrument that we commonly use is usually called as questionnaire, where it is actually a set of questions that we put on the paper or in a online questionnaire with the aim of collecting information from the respondents that we have selected. Okay, in questionnaire for marketing, we usually see two types of questions. Okay, the first type of question is called as an open-ended question. Okay, and the second type of questions is called closed-ended question. So in BBA program for FYP, the questions that we commonly use will be closed-ended questions, where usually the questions will come with a set of choice for the respondent to pick. Okay, but of course, there will be also students using open-ended questions, usually under the demographic profiling section, to get free-form answers about the respondents' demographic details. Okay, so let us discuss about the content of the questionnaire. So for BBA marketing, uh, the content of the questionnaire must be able to capture these three things stated in the slides. Okay, the first one, please make sure that the questionnaire that you design, the questions are able to capture the demographic details, the biodata, and also to decide to check the qualification of the respondents for this particular data collection. Okay, what it means by qualification, I'll discuss about this under section A of the questionnaire structure later. Okay, and not to forget, the questionnaire should be able to capture the responses for all the IVs, independent variables, and the DV of the study. So let's say your research framework has 4 independent variables and 1 dependent variables. You should have 5 sections, okay, 5 sections or 5 groups of questions capturing the responses for all these variables. Okay, you should have these 5 sections. Okay, 5 sections or groups of questions. So in for this FYP, okay, for BBA marketing FYP, okay, the recommended structure for the questionnaire is split into these 4. Okay, I'll recommend my students to prepare the questionnaire based on these 4 contents, okay, or these 4 sections. So the first section is called cover page or introduction page. So what it is, I'll share with you later. Okay, the second section, we call it as section A, which focus on the demographic profiling of the respondents. The third section, which is section B, will focus on the questions, developing questions for the measurement of all the independent variables. Okay, so if you have 4 independent variables, these 4 groups of questions will be covered under section B. Okay, and lastly, section C will be a section measuring, okay, consist of questions measuring your dependent variable. Okay, so there will be only one group of questions over here. Okay, so let us go into the sections in the questionnaire. Okay, so the first section in the questionnaire is the cover page. Okay, usually a questionnaire must have a cover page. So a cover page is a page that discloses the purpose of your research. Okay, it's like a basic introduction to the respondents about the objective of your research. And you might also want to consider to provide some basic information about your research. Okay, example, what you want to find out, what information that you want from the respondents for this research. And if possible, try to include instructions for the respondents to answer the questionnaire. So example, if you look at this example over here, okay, the instructions have clearly stated that the survey will take only approximately 20 minutes for a respondent to complete, and the respondents are required to answer the entire questionnaire without leaving any blank. Please put the instructions into the cover page. And lastly, please remember to express your appreciations to the respondents in helping you to filling up the questionnaire. Okay, this is the cover page. Okay, after that we have introduction page. So introduction page is optional. I repeat, introduction page is optional. But you will realize that some of the researchers or studies may include introduction page to explain what their title is about. The reason of having this introduction page is to make these respondents familiar to the research topics, to get better responses from them. Okay, this is introduction page. The next will be section A. Okay, section A, commonly in marketing, we name it as demographic profiling. This is a section that we try to capture the bio data of the respondents. So in section A, I will advise students to have two types of questions. Okay, the first type of question is called filtering questions. So what is filtering question? Filtering questions are questions that we include in the questionnaire to confirm on the suitability of the respondents. For example, if you look at this, okay, if your respondents must be an existing Tesco private label user, you may consider to include questions like, are you a Tesco private label user? To identify the suitability of the respondents. So respondents that have ticked no for question number 1, we will know that this respondent is not qualified to be our respondents, and this particular question that can be excluded from the study. Okay, filtering question. Okay, the second type of questions that we must have in demographic profiling is the demographic questions. Okay, so please include suitable demographic questions into the questionnaire section A. Okay, this is section A. Yeah? Okay, for section B and C, both sections are designed to capture respondents' perceptions towards a particular variable. Okay, towards a particular variable. So usually for a BBA FYP, we will have 4 IVs, independent variables, and 1 dependent variable. So there will be a total of 5 variables in a study for a normal framework. So what you need to do is to design questions that can capture these respondents' perceptions towards all the variables that you have in your study. So as you can see in these slides, okay, there are 5 questions over here. These 5 questions are designed to measure only one variable, which is called as observability. So please, you need to have 5 groups of questions if you have 5 variables in the framework. So what would be the criteria for a good questionnaire item or a good question in the questionnaire? How do we know that the questionnaire, the question is good? Okay, there are 5 criteria over here. Okay, the first criteria, when we are designing the question, okay, the questions to measure a variable, please make sure that these questions or questionnaire items are understandable. So what it means by understandable, make sure that the questions or the sentences are clear and in proper language, simple language. Okay, over here, please know your respondents. If your respondents are primary 5 students, please make sure that you use simple language because maybe due to their language proficiency, okay, you might need to set the questions or the sentences to simple language. But if your respondents are university students, you might realize that you may be able to use higher level of language in forming the sentences for the questionnaire. Okay, this is the first criteria. Okay, the second criteria, please make sure that the questionnaire items are also measurable. So what it means by measurable, the sentence is able to measure the strength for a particular variable. Example over here. Okay, let's say the variable is called food quality. Okay, so for question number 1, if a respondent ticks 5, okay, tick 5 for question number 1, this 5 indicates that that particular respondent loves the taste of the fast food. So this shows that this question is measurable because it provides strength to the strength, the measurements, the strength of the measurement, the measurement of the strength towards the food quality that you intend to study. Okay, so number 2, please make sure that the item is measurable. Number 3, please make sure that the question item is not having double barrel questions. Okay, example over here, a double barrel questions, something like this. I feel welcomed by the boss and the colleagues on the first day of work. Okay, let's say you're going to the work for the first day, you're going for a job for first day. Okay, the questions that you ask shouldn't be having double barrel questions. So what it means by double barrel? Okay, means two things in one questions. Avoid having two things in one questions. Why? The reason is because if the respondent is trying to answer this question, they might have different perceptions towards the boss welcoming speech and the colleagues welcoming. So if they intend to answer this question, they should put 5 for colleague or for boss. Okay, they will have problem in answering such a question. So please avoid asking two things in one question. Avoid double barrel questions. Okay, criteria number 4. Avoid asking or including confusing words in the questions. Okay, terms such as frequent, always, and often may be interpreted differently by your respondents. So avoid using confusing questions or words in the question. Okay, and the last criteria to determine a good questionnaire item is to have a good order of questions. Okay, please make sure that the questions are properly arranged to ease the answering of your respondents. So please make sure that they flow in a logical sequence. And if possible, try to arrange the questions by starting with simple questions, then moving slowly to a more complex questions. And if possible, try to also group up the questions in similar contexts. Example, you have 6 questions to measure one variable. Question 1 to 3 is about food taste. Group them up. Question 4 to 6 about food appearance. Group them up. Do not have mixture questions without having appropriate sequence. Okay, you will create confusion to the respondents and create irritations among the respondents. So in the end, what you will have, you might have respondents, they are putting in responses or answers without reading the questions properly. Okay, so these are the 5 criteria to guide you in designing questions for the variables in the questionnaire. So how do we design, or how do we identify these questions in the questionnaire? Okay, so these are the 2 ways for BBA FYP to obtain their questionnaire items. Okay, the first method we call it as adaptation. Method number 2 we call it as self-develop. Okay, but of course for BBA degree level, we will advise students to go for method 1. Okay, so what is method 1 adaptation? Okay, method 1 adaptation is a method of obtaining questionnaire items through adapting existing items. So what a researcher or what a student can do is to look for journals, look for articles that have existing questions in the journals. So number 1, make sure you identify journals with items, with questions. Then we pick those items based on the variables. Okay, let's say your variables is about food quality. Identify questions in journals that are related to food quality. Okay, then edit the item to suit to your topic. Okay, for example, the item that you found, the question that you found is about fast food, and your topic is about healthy food. So when it comes to step 3, okay, under adaptation, what you can do is you can change the question to your topic. Change the words fast food to healthy food. Okay, and lastly, apply the questions into your questionnaire. Okay, this is the first method. And the second method is called self-develop. Okay, so self-develop is a situation where usually a researcher will have problems in finding existing items for their variables. So what they have to do is they have to develop questions based on the literature review. Okay, so what a researcher can do, or what a student can do, is to look back into their chapter 2 literature review and identify points or elements that can help to measure the variables that they intend to measure in the questionnaire. So example, let's say example, the variable is called food quality. And in your literature, let's say, okay, it's stated that the quality of food may be partially indicated by how customers evaluate the taste of the food. So this is what you found. This might be something that you found in the literature. So based on this point, you may develop the questionnaire items into sentence like, I think the taste of this fast food is good. Okay, but of course, these self-developed questions must be supported by expert validation. So please seek your lecturer's support or some experts in the research topic to validate this set of questions. Okay, lastly, how many items, how many questions you need to prepare for your questionnaire? Okay, over here, I would suggest you to have 5. Why? The reason is because in SPSS, you must have at least 3 items for every variable. You must have at least 3 questions for every variable. Because according to Hare and others, okay, in order to provide a minimum coverage of the structure's theoretical domain, we must have at least three items to form a construct. So to be safe, I would advise my students to have 5 items prepared for all the variables. So if you have 5 variables in your framework, please make sure that you prepare 25 items for all the variables. Right? Thank you. That's all on the questionnaire development sharing. Okay, please prepare your items and see me during the consultation one by one to validate and to confirm on your questionnaire content. Thank you.